Welcome the fuck back. NoCox McNugs back in the building now. Anyway, people who died in 2018.
Start with Jim Jeffries' comedy career. We have the ghost of it, as you just heard.
Actually, dude, like, I feel like, did you ever watch Legit?
No, I'm just talking because that fucking Jim Jeffries show on Comedy Central.
Oh, the Jim. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Why it's still going?
I forgot he had his own talk show on Comedy Central.
It's gotten us. It's in season 2.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like,
those things never fucking make it.
Legit only lasted 2 seasons too, so this might be the last one.
Yeah, possibly. But I mean, like Norm Macdonald used to have one, and he's one of my at least top 20 comics.
Yeah, well,
and
Norm Macdonald actually has talent, not just an accent.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I feel like Jim Jeffries only says shit with his accent because it's fucking hilarious when he does.
Yeah,
but like he's really not inherently funny.
Yeah, it's almost like he's like a knockoff Australian Gilbert Gottfried. Like he just.
Dude, imagine if he had the voice and the voice and then the accent to go along with the gratiness of it all. Like.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Jim Jeffries.
You know what's the worst part about giving your grandmother head? Hitting your head on the top of the coffin.
Anyway, it's 2019, the first show of 2019. That being said, we're going to tell you all about our New Year's resolutions. I'm totally fucking kidding. That's not a thing. Anyway.
No.
So 2018 was, kind of a, as every year is, it was a fucking roller coaster. There's really not much about last year that can't be said for most years as of late. A lot of great music, some celebrity deaths that were kind of shitty. Good times, bad times, all the fucking shit. So, we just kind of want to talk about it and kind of recap and kind of talk about some stuff that, kind of hit home with us. Some stuff we didn't like about it. Just kind of going back and forth. So, it's gonna be one of those. So, anyway, so the first thing I kind of want to start off with was, shortly after the Spider-Man game, the Marvel Spider-Man game was released, Stan Lee, and the creator of Marvel Comics, was unfortunately he passed away. When was that? Was it like early December or like mid-December?
Yeah, I thought it might have been November. Yeah.
It was sometime like just before the end of the year. The man was getting up there in years. He was in his mid-90s.
I think he's like 94 or 6.
Yeah, so he was getting up there anyway. But still shitty though. Like it still sucks to have to for that to be the case. Like yeah, he was a fucking god among men for the universe he created. But at the end of the day, he's a man and they are mortal, and that's just what happens. Fucking sucks, but that's just how it is. Mm-hmm. So, Anthony, what's any particular celebrity deaths that happened to you, or I guess happened to you that you heard about and then
fucked you up? I mean, there's a shit ton.
There were a shit ton of them this year, bro. Yeah, I agree.
And it was honestly more. I feel like it was more in music than Hollywood, which I guess normally it's kind of a somewhat even split, but obviously you mentioned Stan Lee. Burt Reynolds was a big one.
Burt Reynolds died?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Shit, bro.
Yeah, it was like in the summer or something.
What you been doing? Oh, come on now.
But yeah, I think honestly, in my opinion, the biggest one was Prince. That not only just because the icon that he was, and the endless talent that he possessed. The
man had multi-platinum albums and singles, and he was a fucking
played 9 instruments,
titan, bro.
Yeah, it was probably the biggest one since Mike went down in 2009, in my opinion.
They were kind of in the same vein too, so I feel like that hits a lot harder for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly, and they dealt with a lot of similar shit. I feel like in terms of persecution in the music industry. And I think that Mike was able to make better of it as he, aged and, just took shit over with like buying fucking Sony and the Beatles and all that shit. But like, and another thing for me too is that, you know, they claim that Prince died of, you know, a painkiller overdose, and I
Isn't
totally
that, like,
don't believe that.
like isn't like that kind of in the same vein to how MJ died too? Like some kind of overdose on something? Like,
It was like it was.
wasn't it some kind of like crazy like sedating pain medication he was taking just to sleep or some shit?
Yeah, like there's a lot of paranoia behind it. Like he would like send out texts and shit and be like, yeah, like there's a reason, like he didn't eat for the last week he was alive because he was afraid they were poisoning all of his shit and everything. And apparently, I mean, I think that's eventually probably what ended up happening. And from what I heard, Prince, like, he died in an elevator, which he had an immense fear of elevators. I don't know if y'all knew that, but so the fact
It wasn't like a claustrophobia effect, was it?
I don't know.
'Cause, I mean, that can like fuck with someone's, you know, how they're feeling, like raise their heart rate and shit. I don't know. If,
yeah,
like,
it could. And I mean, it was at I believe it was at, like, you know, his building that he lived at, you know, in Minneapolis. And from what I heard, he had been found with ibuprofen, which is a painkiller, but not unless you like eat the whole bottle.
I was gonna say, like, that's overdosing on like ibuprofen's far fetched. Like, you'd have to take the whole fucking bottle in like a 5-minute setting.
Yeah, exactly. And
to like have it like a shitty effect on your body, like.
And I feel like, you know, it would have. It just seems so nonchalant and an easy insertion. And then Mac Miller was another big one.
Yeah, I think he falls like the second music celebrity death, because like a lot of people very torn up.
Him and XXX Tentacion.
Well,
probably.
he was kind of a piece of trash, so.
Yeah, but he was only 20 years old. Nobody deserves to die that young.
Yeah,
and he was never found guilty of, you know, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he died, so that probably played a part in it. But.
I don't know all the details. I just heard some things about him that, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
like the validity of him, I'm not gonna lie, could be questionable. I don't know. I didn't do the research. Just from what I've seen, what I've heard, he wasn't the best dude. So
yeah,
but yeah, like, I mean, you're right. No one deserves to die at 20. That is a shitty part too. But
another interesting, I guess, kind of like conspiracy type deal. There were 26 deaths in rap music in 2018, and every artist was under the age of 26.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Mac was the oldest at 26.
See, it all goes back to fucking Chris Rock. The government hates rap. That's what they do. They get rid of all the fucking rappers.
And another one too that I just recently found out about, Craig Mack. He died. Very big time old school hip hop artist. Had my favorite from him was the Flavor in Year remix on the Bad Boy 10th anniversary album, which, I mean, it was a play off of his original song with just the whole Bad Boy label on it. But you know, he was a pioneer in the game as well, and you know, will be sorely missed, along with the crazy number of musicians, actors, even like family members of celebrities and things like that. Like, I just found out that Kim Porter, Diddy's ex-wife, and, you know, has 3 kids with, she had died. And I mean, that might have been late 17, I'm not 100% sure, but you know, some just more layers that was very sad. And, you know, just kind of I mean, death is a part of life, but at the same time, it's just like, it almost seems systematic with, like, the differentiation of, you know, who people are and how they supposedly die or whatever. It's, you don't really know what to believe, and I think that's part of the you know, the age of the spin and media that we're in today.
No, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, it's you know, you can think one thing about someone, have them be totally, you know, something completely different when, you know, when they've passed away, and, you know, all this stuff comes out, and you know, it's an unfortunate situation, but it's just, I mean, I feel like social media fuels that
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you don't see people for who they are much anymore. You see them for what they claim themselves to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate that we, as a civilization, we're at that point to where you can become anyone on the internet.
And in hip hop specifically, I was listening to an interview on Vlad TV with Lord Jamar from Brand Nubian, an 80s group that was really good and influential. And he was saying that, like, obviously death tolls have risen crazily, specifically in the rap game. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that, like, comparatively, it's not even close to what it was, in the 80s and 90s. And what it is that, they were just pretty much just smoking weed. I mean, like, in the 80s, they were doing coke and shit. But then, like, in the 90s, like, that was pretty much, you only kind of did that shit with people you knew who didn't, like, really give a shit or wouldn't judge you or whatever. Like, it wasn't as open as it was in the 70s and 80s. And then, obviously, when the government put crack in the projects, that was, completely banned in the game, and, like, you were looked down upon for doing that, if it was known, and because it was obviously so deadly and still is today.
Yeah.
But now, like, I mean, obviously drugs are more highly glorified, but it's it's just, there's no limit. It's just more of, it's almost like back to a 60s mentality where it's just like all experimentalization. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like the prior knowledge is known that, what you can and can't do to a certain extent. And it's like these kids either don't know that or just don't give a shit.
Right.
And
exactly.
And it's all pushed by, record labels and music execs and shit like that. And it's like, that's, basically, like, society does as we hear, it's like, do what I say, not as I do, or whatever. And so obviously what they're saying is, influencing a lot of young people's lives, and, just the recklessness of the drug use, and, obviously Under 27 Club, which got a shit ton more, of members this year. It's not a club I'm going to be part of. Yeah, exactly. And, it's just very unfortunate, and I don't see an end to it. If anything, it'll get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
But on to a much lighter note, we're going to be looking back at some of our favorite, top 5 and, just overall favorite moments in our normal topics that we normally speak about: sports, music, and gaming. And Nad and I are going to start...
all the good things in the world.
Definitely. And Nad and I are going to start with sports.
They're going to start with sports, man. We just started with dead celebrities, but they're going to start again.
From something that, very somber and, earth-shattering, really, to, something that brings a lot of people a lot of joy and takes some people out of some dark places. Nad, how are you, first of all?
I am feeling just fine, gentlemen. It has been a wackier than shit year between most of your major leagues, between across the whole gamut of recognized favorite American sports. So, sorry, Tucker, go down south. You're not for America. But, Anthony, we got to start out with what we considered our number one, especially with you being a Texas A&M fan. How about that 7 overtime?
Yeah, that was honestly probably not only, the best game of this year, and not even just because I had a team in the fight, but probably the best football game I've ever watched, as opposed in terms of just fucking craziness. Like, it wasn't the best played, obviously. There was a shit ton of offense. It was like 72 to 66 or whatever the fuck it was. It was like a basketball score. But, a lot of controversy with, what could have been the game-winning interception by Kellen Mond in the fourth quarter, but his knee was down when he picked up the ball, which, is an obvious contrast from the college game to the NFL, because correct me if I'm wrong, if that would have happened in the NFL, he would have just been able to pick it up and continue to play, right?
He wasn't touched.
Yeah. So that's literally something specific to the college game. And it was a huge win for A&M because they had kind of had an up and down season with Jimbo's first year as the head coach, and it was a good year, and you saw flashes of what they could be, and you could tell the overall culture change, and I feel like the resilience that they showed, and just the grit and attrition to eventually pull that game out, kind of showed the stamp that he put on that team, and hopefully the stamp that remains, with them and the style that they continue to show on the field moving forward. And that'll take us to the number 2 game that we had, which was first round of the March Madness NCAA tournament. It was the Cinderella of the year, Loyola-Chicago, taking down Miami 64-61 on a buzzer beater. Nat, did you get to watch that game?
I think you and I watched that game together, didn't we?
Few games I actually did get to watch, and that was probably one of the craziest March Madness games, at least in probably the past decade, if not, probably could also be considered for maybe all time. Just having that Cinderella team as being the first team to ever beat, as a 16 to ever beat a 1, and then keep playing the way they did, was, they deserve the Cinderella story that they got last year, and they played up to it up until the Final Four.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously there's a story with, Sister Jean being at every game and all that good stuff, and, I'm sure she's ready, hopefully have them go back this season. I know she's getting old, so it'd be, pretty cool story if they could end up pulling one out for her. Although highly unlikely, it was highly unlikely in the first place for them to make it to the Final Four last year. So can't count anybody out. And I feel like that was like the big story of sports as a whole last year, and about every league. You see it a lot in the NFL, the NBA. It's kind of grown to both leagues. Obviously, the West is a pretty big crapshoot. A lot of teams are, bunched up behind, like Denver and Golden State. It's a bunch of teams, not too far behind for like the, 3 through 8 spots. And then, the NFL, anybody, there's a bunch of upsets this year. We knew that. We experienced that firsthand, taking quite a few L's in our pick segments, and
I think the biggest one was who did Dallas play that like you guys are super surprised they beat?
The Saints.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
And it's like not only that they beat them, but the way they beat them, like because the Saints were a high-powered offense, you think you'd have to outscore them, but they beat them 13-10, which is highly improbable, in multiple ways in that case. And speaking of the NFL, that takes us to our third game, which was the Super Bowl between the Pats and the Eagles, to Nad's chagrin a bit. Nad, I'm sure you remember this game a lot more kind of consciously than I do.
Has Super Bowl happened this year yet, or is it?
It's the first week of February.
Gotcha,
they just had the conference championship game Sunday.
That's right.
I don't know what it is for New England against playing in a Super Bowl with teams from the NFC East. I don't know what it is. But honestly, even though my team lost, it was a great game.
Yeah, what was it? Was it 41-33?
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously great back and forth battle, high scoring with, its share of defense when needed.
Count out the Philly special.
Yeah, obviously the play of the year, and which kind of almost ended up being a staple in the NFL this year. You saw Chicago take New York to overtime with that play, and you saw a few other teams, good 4 or 5 other teams pull it off in different parts of the field as well. And just like the creativity of Doug Peterson that was brought to that offense, coupled with Carson Wentz, the franchise, who's supposed to be savior, and obviously, starting quarterback going down, and Nick Foles leading the improbable run, and almost doing it again this year. If it if it wasn't for an Alshon Jeffrey drop. Although I'm not sure if they would have got past the Rams, but I didn't think they would have got past the Saints either, and they got a lot closer than I thought they would. And I didn't even think they would beat the Bears either, but, they pulled that one off as well. And just them even getting to the playoffs this year was crazy enough in itself. But, yeah, that was another great game as well. Nat, I'll let you take this one because you probably got to watch this one in full. The Game 1 of the Washington Capitals and Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Final.
Man, the game was a very good game through all three periods, especially with Vegas coming out on top. But the thing that hit me most with this game is, at least for me personally, I don't know how it is for everyone, part of the experience of going to a live event is the atmosphere and the crowd involved in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that crowd, that whole series, and that whole town of Vegas, of all places, was right behind the Golden Knights all season long. As soon as they started their playoff run, that city and that arena, it was absolutely everything was Golden Knights. So
yeah, we even saw some of it down here.
Yeah, well, you guys get a deal with them at least 2-3 times a year.
Yeah.
Down in Dallas, and for a first-year team to have the best winning percentage of any major expansion franchise in history, and then to make a run into the Cup Final was a great run, and it was a great game, back and forth. Vegas was able to kind of keep Ovechkin smothered, which
that was the only game they were able to do that. Yeah.
As well as keeping TJ Oshie in line, keeping him out of the crease. But it was an absolutely great game, at least from my perspective. Not just because of the action, but because of the crowd behind it. And I absolutely urge people, if they did not get to see the pregame festivities, go find it on YouTube. It will give any hockey fan chills.
Nice, yeah. I don't think I remember that either. But yeah, and the whole series was crazy, and obviously, it was another, kind of miraculous run by both teams, as was kind of the whole mantra of the year in sports. Like I said, as the Caps looking for their first Cup Final victory in their franchise's history as well, and obviously the Golden Knights' first year in existence making it there was huge. And obviously the Caps pulled it out, which was a great story because, if Ovechkin didn't get it, you didn't know if he would get one. It's kind of, similar, speaking from a hometown perspective, when with Dirk in 2011, obviously it's played out to be that way because they haven't even gotten close since that title win in 2011. So I'm glad they got that for him, and I'm also glad that the Caps got that for him, for Ovechkin as well. That takes us to our last game, which was, I believe, week 12 of this NFL season, just in October, I think it was, the Chiefs and Rams game in LA, 54-51, which was won by the Chiefs. But yeah, just fucking crazy game. Obviously, you knew it was going to be high scoring with, the teams with the two best records in their respective conference at the time of the game, and also, you had Pat Mahomes versus Jared Goff. Highly talented receiving cores for both teams, good running backs at the time. That was before the Kareem Hunt incident, became public. And just a crazy game, not only from offensive perspective, you thought the defenses would totally get torched, which, kind of did happen, but they also combined for 3 defensive touchdowns between the two teams as well. And I believe 2 of them were by one Rams player, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that was just a crazy, kind of once in a decade, quarter century type game that that you get specifically in the NFL, in my opinion. What do you think, Nat?
It It was an absolutely great game. I think it was Patrick Mahomes' coming out party, for sure. Going against, at the time, was a pretty stout Rams defense.
Yeah.
Especially with, at that point, Aaron Donald was still getting MVP talk.
Yeah, I think Aqib Talib was injured, but that was really the main thing because, Marcus Peters got lit up by Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, and with the Rams and the Chiefs, they were both steamrolling at that point. I honestly didn't think it was going to get that high of a score.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll gladly be wrong for other instances like that, where you're pretty much at this point playing arena football with that kind of score. But I thought it was a great game. I went to a lot of talk, especially last weekend with the conference championships and a possible rematch of those two teams.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
Even though that would have meant podcast losing, I don't know if I would have been disappointed with that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That was the good thing about, the playoffs had their share of excitement, but eventually, the best 4 teams made it there, 1 and 2 seeds for each conference, and, they made it happen, and it's unfortunate that the Saints got fucked the way that they did, but, the Rams are there, and that's what it is, and obviously your Pats are there, and we'll see how that plays out a couple weeks from now.
Something I've joked about in private, there's actually realized it out now, as Kraft has tried to offer Vinatieri a 1-game contract.
Really?
To come back and at least try to get another ring. I don't know if he's actually going to take it or not. I think it's probably going to come down to the day before.
Right.
But there are those rumors out there that Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, is trying to bring back Adam Vinatieri, who 17 years ago beat the Rams on a field goal in the Super Bowl.
Yep, I remember that shit.
Going from games on green to games on a screen, 2018 was also a great gaming year, as Nat and I will soon explain. I remember 2 games in particular that I was really excited about for this year, especially were God of War and Spider-Man. But we'll get to those in a second. They both have some pretty amazing accolades, so we'll say those for last. Nat, what have you played this year that you've been really into?
I got really into Red Dead Redemption 2, just like a lot of people did. And also, I got back into GTA.
Yeah, didn't they drop new DLC for it?
Yeah, for the 3 DLCs they dropped this year, it brought me back into Grand Theft Auto 5 just because the DLC has gotten so far away from the original storyline, it almost seems like a brand new game.
Right. So so this DLC was separate from that DLC, right? It wasn't, you're not talking about the same stuff?
Oh, the DLCs this year, the kind of biggest one was, not the official title, but was pretty much GTA 5's version of Gay Tony, which was the big DLC for Grand Theft Auto 4.
Right.
And it will bring those characters from the 4th to the 5th iteration of the game, and as well as the...
Yeah, I mean, I've never been super into Grand Theft Auto. I've seen people play it. It's dope. It looks fun, but and it's weird because I love open world games. So you'd think that I'd be all over that shit, but I mean, it really doesn't appeal to me. I mean, I would play it if I had a copy, but I don't have a desire to go out and buy any of the games or the content or whatever for whatever reason. So
yeah, and I mean, because I used to play GTA on the PS2. San Andreas was, the best one at the time. And I think, until 5 probably still was. But sometimes I would literally just spend hours just fucking around doing different shit as opposed to even following the storyline just because it was entertaining enough in its own right.
And see, that's what I love about open world games. You can do whatever the fuck you want and not have to be bound to the story every second of the game, which is fun. That's something I like a lot about it. But anyway, now what were you saying about it?
I mean, GTA 5 at this point is a 5-year-old game.
Yeah.
But you almost wouldn't recognize that with.
I was gonna say it's aged really well.
Done to keep that thing story driven enough to where people keep playing it, but open enough to let the community run roughshod in a good way, as in all the things that the community will create
Right.
with GTA to keep it fun and keep people interested in it.
Of course. I mean, they got to stay relevant. Keep the brand awareness going, that kind of thing. So I mean, it's no surprise they're doing that shit. What you mentioned? You mentioned Red Dead. Tell us about Red Dead, bro. I mean, I've seen like a lot of awesome reviews for it. Gameplay. I've seen gameplay for it. I played like the first half hour of the first one, but I decided it really wasn't for me. At least the bit that I played. I know the first half hour is really not a good judging point for a game, because I know it's kind of slow moving when it first starts out. But I mean, just kind of based on, obviously you've played it. You had like a lot of you've experienced the storyline and stuff. So like, what can you tell me that would like convince me to like go out and buy it?
You've talked about it before, how big an open world fan you are. Red Dead is kind of in that same boat as GTA, both being Rockstar games, to where the storyline is there for those who want it, but with how open you can be, it's almost kind of like a Western version of, at least for me, between GTA 5 and a Skyrim.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it's just yeehaw both of those games. I mean, it's not
mechanics work and everything, but it's so open based that you're not constricted to one ideal or another. Visually, it is absolutely goddamn gorgeous.
My thing with open world games like that is, I mean, it's good, like, because I feel like if you're like, take a game like Dead Space, for example, the game is the story. Like you're there's not one part of the game that you're not doing the story bit of it, right? So I like being able to break away from that and kind of like, explore what else is going on. So I mean, that's a good point. Like, I mean, if open world games are definitely my thing, so like I feel like if I actually put the effort in, like, those are some games I could really enjoy.
Yeah, it's definitely, in my opinion, it deserves all the hype it got. For a lot of people, they can't stick to the storyline for 20, 30.
Well, I mean, because people's attention span these days is so fucking small. I mean,
so there's all these different side things to do to kind of keep you from being bogged down by a big AAA title.
right.
And the fact that it wasn't buggy at release was a huge thing for it. It was the first AAA title in I don't know how long where there was no major issues with the single player release or the multiplayer release.
Was there anything else that you wanted to mention as far as that goes? I know didn't Spyro get a remake this year? Because I know like they when did they drop that? Because I know it was mentioned like at the beginning of the year, but then like
I think like the end of summer.
Like wait, was it the end of summer or beginning of fall?
Yeah, it was. Well, they talked about it at the 2017 E3.
Yeah.
And it got dropped.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was late July, early August. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to get to Spyro. It's one of those games I do plan on getting to eventually, just because I didn't have a lot of experience with the original game.
Mm-hmm.
They were usually pretty hard to find anything but the original Spyro. So I've heard a lot of great things. I've seen a lot of great things. Visually, it looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Granted, I just compared to 1996, but otherwise, the gameplay still looks crisp, it looks fresh, but it looks still Spyro and
Right.
kind of like what they did with the Crash Bandicoot remake.
So the overhaul didn't take away from the soul, essentially. So like the overhaul the game got really didn't detract from the way the game plays, right?
It was pretty much a spot on.
If anything, it probably enhanced it, right?
A visual remake of it.
Right.
If most of the missions that I've seen, there were a couple tweaks here and there with characters just to keep it PC. But they weren't big enough.
Everyone's gotta be PC these days.
So,
But anyway, so kind of keeping in accordance with kind of our gaming stuff. I want to add a couple more on there. As we mentioned earlier this year, or not, I guess later this past year, Stan Lee, the creator of Marvel Comics, passed away. But one of the products of his great mind will live on. I'm talking, of course, about Spider-Man. It was released around either mid or late November or September to widespread critical acclaim. It sold, I think, 3 million copies in the first 12 hours of release, something around there. So I mean, it sold pretty quickly. And dude, you know what's crazy? As a result of all these PlayStation exclusives that are going on, Xbox sales have dropped.
Like the console?
Yeah, the console.
Damn.
Like the whole they haven't plummeted, but they've gone down, you know.
It's pretty crazy.
So like I mean that's just a testament to how like great the content of these games are. I'll get into a couple more here in a few minutes, but Spider-Man, of course. I mean everyone loves Spider-Man. I really can't think of a single person that I've met that's in a comic who doesn't like fucking love Spider-Man.
Yeah, easily my favorite superhero.
Yeah. So I mean, and like the game itself, it puts me in mind of the Batman Arkham games, just on a larger scale as far as the open world goes. Arkham City and Arkham Origins kind of introduced that open world Batman game concept to us, but I think Arkham Knight kind of took that and ran with it, but they ran a little too far with it and did a little too much with it to make it enjoyable. But Spider-Man kind of did it in a way that made it it made it accessible, but it also made it complex and fun to do. It was never monotonous. I mean, I got the deluxe version, but I didn't know that the standard version the deluxe version, when I bought it, just came with the standard game. I thought you had all the DLC and stuff with it. I played through for like a month straight and then run out of stuff to do, and that was just the main game. Like they dropped 3 sets of DLC, or I guess a set of DLC with 3 separate missions, sometime between October and December. They dropped 3 DLC downloads, and I was ecstatic to learn that I got those for free since I paid for the deluxe version. So that was nice, and so that of course provided hours more of entertainment, and that made it that made the purchase worth it. I paid like $80 for the whole thing, but like I said, the hours and hours of gameplay that I got from it made it definitely worth it. I mean, the story was great, gameplay was amazing. It's really the whole pack. Anthony, can I spit my gum into your fucking bottle? Can't keep chewing this shit now. Okay.
So, no, on a scale of 1 to 10, was it as good as Spider-Man 3 was?
Nah, fuck off and do not ever ask me that question again.
Toby Mac.
Oh my god.
The one thing as an outside looking in, as I'm not a Sony fanboy,
I'm so disappointed in you right now.
was I had to miss out on Spider-Man.
Yeah, because you're a fucking Microsoft boy.
I'm not a Sony fanboy.
What? I'm the Sony fanboy. You're the Microsoft fanboy.
He said he's not a Sony fanboy.
Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, no. I thought you were saying I called you a Sony fanboy. I called you a Microsoft fanboy because the fuck you are, Mr. McNuggets.
I'm a young man who is on Xbox.
Micro Flaccid.
Well, you don't get God of War on Xbox, and that is one game of the year. So, I mean, if that doesn't say nothing about Xbox, I don't know what does. It's probably why all the fucking sales are falling, because so many people want to play God of War. But yeah, I actually just, if you remember back to the first episode of NoCox McNugs, that was one of the first things we mentioned as far as the gaming goes. I was very excited about God of War coming out. And recently, in fact, just within the past couple weeks, I replayed it, and it's still every bit as amazing as it was when I first picked it up. I mean, they recently introduced New Game Plus, and they did that with Spider-Man around the same time too, so, to where you can take all your upgrades and stuff from the previous save game you had, and then transfer those over to a new game. And I mean, that made it super fun to deal with enemies and whatnot. I mean, the story, of course, is amazing. And what's funny is that the first 7 God of War installments, they all kind of had like a 10, 12 hour storyline. If you play that all the way through, just like straight through, didn't stop. But this one has like a 25, 30 hour storyline. And so it really kind of delves deep into this, rich Norse mythology and really kind of pulls a lot of references from that, and it makes for a hell of an experience. I mean, if you have Nat, if you are ever down here and you want to fucking hop on that game, let me know, motherfucker, because you will love it.
I admit I missed out on 2 of the games I've looked forward to in probably a while besides Red Dead.
What was God of War one of them?
God of War was one of them.
What was the second one?
Spider-Man as well.
Okay, so yes, I mentioned both of them.
Just on the strength of those 2 games alone.
Yeah, no, dude. There's actually one game that I'm like considering buying an Xbox for, and that's Rise: Son of Rome.
See, and I've played that. I honestly couldn't get into it, but it has been a while since I have tried.
See, I would get it. I would get it purely for the combat. The combat looks amazing. Like that on its own would be enough for me to fucking buy an Xbox for.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, obviously that'd be a huge purchase, so I mean, I wouldn't be able to do that right now. But
did you have any experience with Assassin's Creed this year?
I didn't. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about Odyssey. One of my friends at work plays it like all the time, and he can't fucking stop talking about it. So I'm assuming it's good. I played the first Assassin's Creed, and I wasn't like a huge fan of it. So, I mean, I really didn't feel the need to gravitate toward it. But I mean, I'm sure it's a good game. It just wasn't for me.
I've heard various things as well, more in the positive as well. I haven't had any experience with any of these Assassin's Creed games except for Black Flag.
Yeah.
Game. So I was just wondering if you would have the time to get into Assassin's Creed Odyssey this year.
Right. 2018 was also a great year for music. I mean, personally, and also just like from an industry perspective. I mean, if you're a music fan like Anthony and I are, you tend to go through and go through YouTube or wherever and find like all kinds of new artists. I'm assuming that's what you do, right, bro?
Pretty much, yeah. Spotify,
that kind of thing.
Complex.
And so in doing that, like it sucks because like you'll find artists that are now defunct but did like really really good shit when they were around. Mm-hmm. And like one of those for me this year that I found kind of toward the end of November was Glass Cloud. They did. I don't know if anyone knows who Josh Travis is, but he is a fucking beast on a guitar. He primarily does like 8-string and 9-string guitar work, which is fucking nasty as hell. The Glass Cloud dropped an album, I think, when was it? Like 2012, 2013. They dropped a full length then, and they did 8 strings then, but then they dropped an EP in 2013 that had all 9-string guitars on it, the sound and the tone on that album is fucking nasty. Like it's so just like crushing, and it creates like a wall of sound. Like it's insane, like how much those 3 extra strings affect things. But yeah, I mean, I was really sad to find out that they weren't a thing anymore. But the good news is Josh Travis is now playing in Amir. So he's dropped an album with them so far, and hopefully we're gonna get another one pretty soon. Anthony, what like? I know like there's a fuck ton of music that dropped this year that I know you fucking love. So what you got?
Yeah, it was really hard. I came up with the top 5, and I really can't even say that this is like the definite order, but I'm just gonna go with it. My number 5 was Redemption from J-Rock. That was a really good project overall. It had been about 3 years since his last one. Maybe it was 2 or 3 for sure. That's kind of standard for TDE artists, as they're always drop high quality projects, and obviously it takes a good amount of time to do that for the most part. Not only high quality projects, but of length as well, which isn't always, guaranteed in today's day and age with, it being, kind of almost reverting back to the old days of going back to, you know, just 2.5, 3-minute cuts. But I think it was about 13 songs, and I fucked with every one of them. A big critique for me is like having something for everybody on it, regardless of whether I particularly am in love with it all or not. Like, I think showing diversity is a huge thing because that's how you know, expand your fan base.
Bro,
yeah. And, you know, because if you only do gangster rap, then you're only going to have a gangster rap crowd. But if you throw in R&B cuts and, you know, lyric shit, trap shit, club shit, you know, you expand, you know, with your, you know, subgenre packaging, I guess. And, you know, had one of the singles of the year on it with Win, with Kendrick. The Wow freestyle on there was really good. I love the beat on it. I like the kind of, like, anything with, like, you know, woodwind instruments or, you know, kind of like the Japanese sound, like what Future does a lot, even though I'm not a really big fan of Future himself. Like, I really like that sound, and they captured that really.
Big fan of the Future.
They really capped that well with that song, and had some R&B cuts with SZA, who had her album this year that was really good. And
Where the fuck did she come from? Because I feel like she just kind of popped up out of nowhere.
I mean, she's a TDE artist, and like she was, she just, I'm pretty sure that was her first album.
Wasn't she with Schoolboy when you saw them?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was one of the 6 artists that were at that show, which was a great show. Yeah, just a great project, and, you know, he obviously was a big part of the Black Panther soundtrack, as well as TDE did that too. That takes me to number 4, which was Astroworld from Travis Scott. Very highly anticipated for a good at least a year, and did not disappoint. In my opinion, had, you know, the song of the year on it was Sicko Mode with Drake. He actually, Noah and I went to that show, and that was the song they ended with.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that on a future episode for sure, and in more detail. But that one was 17 or 18 tracks, and you know, the features were really good. Had Young Thug, 21 Savage, Juice WRLD, Drake, obviously, as I mentioned. Just a lot of really good features, and, you know, solo work from him. You know, the single from it being Butterfly Effect, which also charted pretty high. May have been a number 1. I'm not 100% sure on that. And my personal favorite from the album was Houston Fornication, which was thankfully also done at the show. And it wasn't necessarily a highly acclaimed track, but definitely my favorite. Just the whole sound, and hearing Trav really spaz on some lyric shit, like not like on a conscious level by any means, like high grade, but you know, just for him to just, you know, show some, you know, some chops and some flow is real cool, aside from just, you know, the melodic club type sound that he's, you know, made very famous and mastered.
Yeah, he does that really well. It's a very good sound for him.
Yeah. Number 3 actually just released at the beginning of November, or December, Meek Mill's Championships album. And see, I wasn't really, like, I definitely can't deny Meek's talent, and, you know, he's a very technical, sound, skilled rapper, but it kind of seems like he's, like, fucking screaming at me, and I hate that shit. But on this one specifically, it seems that he's, like, toned that down, told a lot of personal stories about his life, being, you know, locked up, childhood, through what he's going through now. You know, kind of was on a good amount of conscious shit.
How long has he been around?
Shit, dude, I was listening to him in sophomore year.
Oh, so he's been around a minute then.
Yeah.
Not saying you're old, I'm just saying.
No, yeah.
Given how old we are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, he's as far as I know, he's still with MMG and Rick Ross, and you know, he did, you know, as Ross does, he does a great job of promoting his artists, and, you know, he got Meek started on the right track, and, you know, it's cool because I like when you can listen to an artist's, you know, work, like discography, like start to to, you know, wherever it's at or if it's finished, and just hear their overall transformation as far as, you know, sound quality, lyricism, all that stuff. And, you know, he's always had lyricism, but, you know, his sound's a lot better, you know, a lot more, I guess, even-keeled. And, you know, he's so many great features on the album.
That is one of the great things about finding an artist that's like just starting off, is you get to evolve with them. You get to watch how their sound progresses and, like, you know, kind of see where they go with their careers. So
exactly.
That's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things about music is you can just see that happen in so many places.
Yeah, and in so many ways.
In so many ways, yeah.
And but yeah, the features on this were tremendous, top notch, fucking fabulous. Jay-Z, Rick Ross. He had 2 or 3 really good R&B cuts with LMI, who's really good. Melly, that was actually one of my favorite songs with the Shits. And there's my favorite song on the album would probably be Uptown Vibes with Fabulous, or actually no, I take that back. My favorite is definitely What's Free with Rick Ross and Jay-Z. Jay-Z, you know, he is the best. He's like the Michael Jordan of hip hop, in my opinion. You know, whether he's your favorite or not, you can't deny that he's the best. Like, Ice Cube's my favorite rapper, but Jay-Z's definitely the best that is out, and that, you know, of this generation easily. You know, 13 platinum albums speak for themselves.
Of course.
Yeah, great verse from him, and beat selection on it was top notch, and you know, it was, I could argue it even being number 2, but what I did put at number 2 was Pusha T's Daytona, which got a lot of kind of criticism, I guess, for starting with the album cover being Whitney Houston's bathroom counter. I thought that was kind of fucked up. You know, that was definitely a Kanye idea. Just to, you know, for
create
shock value.
Yeah,
exactly. You know, not very long after Whitney had passed, obviously.
And not only that, there was like a fuck ton of name changing with the album too, because it was King Push until like right before it was released, right?
Yeah, like
2 hours.
3 hours.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Then 2 hours before it drops, it becomes Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Yeah, and then Kanye scrapped the album 3 times, or 2 or 3 times. Like, they'd had it ready and mastered, and then it was like, nah, fuck it, we're gonna do some other shit. But what they eventually came up with was great, and it really, I think the reason why I kind of put it at 2 is that it was only a 7-track album, but all of them were super fucking strong.
It was very listenable. I'm not a big hip hop person, you know me. Like, it's not my main genre at all. But they're very listenable. They're very good tracks. So
yeah, and I mean
they definitely picked the cream of the crop for it.
And yeah, and it's classic Push. You know, you hang on every line. You gotta listen to every fucking word. Like, everything plays a big part of every line and song and just message in general. And, you know,
for sure,
escalated the Push and Drake feud with the Infrared song, which is probably one of my favorites on the album. That's probably something I'll get into next installment of that feud, which may never fucking end, which I'm cool with.
How long has it been going on for?
About a good year now. So, like, they've thrown like 3 or 4 tracks back at each other.
Jesus Christ,
so, yeah. I mean, like, it's some fucking personal shit. I'll definitely get into that on a future episode. But
I want to hear more.
But yeah, it was very well done. Kanye producing. You know it's going to be top notch A&R work, and you know, regardless of what you think of Kanye as a person, he is.
You can't deny he's a
genius musician.
Yes,
and yeah, they just really delivered. Infrared was really good. My favorite was Santeria, just because I kind of did the whole 2 tracks in one, like kind of switching the beat up in the middle, and the samples that were used for it from there was a song with Biggie and Kim. I can't fucking think of it now. I knew it. I just haven't heard the album in a minute. If I heard it again, I'd be able to pull it back up. But yeah, it was just very well done overall. But easily my number 1 album was The Return of Wayne Carter with the Carter 5. 23 tracks. Been waiting on it for 5 years, and it did not disappoint. Easily the best Carter installments since the Carter 2, which was you could argue was his best work, depending on, he had bought a shit ton of great mixtapes, arguably kind of pioneered the mixtape movement, at least for our generation at the least. And I'd have to say, obviously Uproar was a huge, not only as far as, clout, but, there was the whole Uproar challenge with social media and shit like that. And that's my number 2 song of the year, too, behind Sicko Mode. And, that's just, all these albums, or at least I would definitely say the top 4. Not to shade on Redemption, but at least the top 3 I think will be timeless works that can be listened to decades from now.
You know, album this year really fucking disappointed me.
Huh?
The Rolling Papers 2.
Oh my god, yeah, it was fucking like.
It was like literally 90%. So
you did get to listen to all of it? Okay.
It was like 90% filler, bro.
Yeah.
If they had done what taking a page from Push and then Kanye and all doing the small 7-track album
with the best
songs they could write, it would have been so much better because, like I said, bro, it's got 18, 20 tracks.
It's 25.
It's got 20 tracks. God damn it, 25 tracks.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is that he described it as like a cornerstone, work for his, for his legacy, and I
don't see it at all.
Yeah, like that could have been strictly just for pushing the album because it was around shortly after it was released.
Yeah.
But holy fuck, dude! And Khalifa was really good before it. I really liked that album. Most of Us was probably one of the best songs he's made in my opinion, and it had a bunch of really good tracks on it. But this one I feel like he was just trying to. It was almost
fan service, basically.
Yeah.
Is what I thought. Because, everyone wanted Rolling Papers 2, right? He gave us Rolling Papers 2, but it wasn't that great.
Yeah, and
I think it was literally just a fan service thing.
Yeah, and I think he said that he did, on social media, he asked if the fans wanted a double album. So it's of course they're going to say, yeah, you want the most music. You know?
For sure.
But, at the same time, like you said, it was a shit ton of filler. And I feel like that he just tried to appeal to too many... different genres and artists and stuff like that with who he worked with and production he worked with most of the people that he normally does.
The album sounded great, it just wasn't that good.
Yeah, definitely.
His production's always top notch, but he just didn't bring it this time.
Yeah, definitely not. And hopefully not only do we have to hopefully not wait 3 or 4 years for another album, hopefully
the next one will just be better. How about that?
Yeah, a shit ton better. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
I kind of mentioned 3 of my top 5 singles with What's Free from the Championship album, the Wow Freestyle from Redemption with J-Rock and Kendrick, Sicko Mode from Drake and Trav was my number 1. Uproar from Lil Wayne and Swizz Beatz was number 2. The only one I haven't mentioned was Power Glide, which was number 3 for me, with Ray Shrimmered and Juicy J. Just a really good club anthem, and you want some bitches shaking their ass, and you want to pump up before a party, during a party, after a party. It is easily the jam to do it too. The beat's infectious, the lyrics are really catchy, the hook is super fucking catchy, and they just really hit that shit out of the park.
One of my top albums this year was definitely. It wasn't really. It's an EP. I don't know. I guess what qualifies as an EP? Like a 5-track thing or anything longer? I'm not sure, but
I think it's 10 or less.
Well, no, because they're actually.
Because CDs are normally 10 plus.
That's true. Yeah.
LPs.
So I guess EP would be 10 or less. So yeah, one of my favorite bands, Currents, they dropped a new kind of extended play EP kind of thing. It's called I Let the Devil In. It's really a metaphor for mental health a lot of their lyrics deal with depression and you know mental health and mental illness, that kind of thing, and so to see them make a work specifically dedicated to that was, and especially considering like the fact that I personally haven't been haven't had to deal with mental health issues, but I've had to deal with the results of them. It's a frustrating thing for someone to live with, and I really hate that people have to go through that and like not being able to trust their own mind, and it really brings into perspective how much these people go through and like what their life is like, and it's unfortunate, but it's good that they felt like they could bring some clarity to that, and even for someone who hasn't necessarily had those issues, if they hear an album like this, they'll be able to understand what someo's feeling like that. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
So I mean, yeah, it's a really cool thing they do with that.
Now,
What's up, bro?
fellas, can I make me a dishonorable mention
Sure.
for a song that came out this year?
Yeah, we did it with an album.
That would be "I Love It" by Lil Pump and Kanye.
Oh, dude, okay, so, like, straight up, this is kind of a funny story in relation to that. Like, my boss, they asked if I'd heard the song, and I was like, no, I didn't even know it had fucking released. And it's like, it is a waste of 3 minutes of your life, so I never listened to it. Straight up. I've heard plenty of shit about it. It's just...
It doesn't sound like a cup of tea anyway.
It was complete trash.
It's about as far away I thought Kanye could get from his old music.
Yeah.
And it's 2.5 minutes of trash.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And I mean, his album this year was really good. So like, it's kind of fucking disappointing. Like, I really liked Ye, personally. Another 7-track album, but I thought that was really good. And for him to like do that shit, I mean, obviously it's probably just a marketing ploy and something for to keep Pump relevant. But yeah, it's fucking trash from what I've heard, and I don't think I'll ever hear it.
Another great music release from this year that's only been released in Japan because that's where the band is from, but Crystal Lake dropped a couple new singles right before. I think they dropped the first one in late November, and then they dropped the second one kind of late December. And of course, Crystal Lake has been a titan in the metal world for almost over 15 years now. I mean, they've been around since 2003. Coming out of Tokyo, Japan, and I mean they've been killing the game for a while, man. I'm really excited for this album to drop. Like I said, the album that song came from has been dropped only in Japan, so we're all kind of waiting until February for the full album to drop for the rest of the world. So that kind of sucks, but it's coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll definitely talk about that when that comes around.
For sure.
And we hope that 2018 was a decent year for you. I mean, it wasn't really great for me personally, but, if anything, whether it feels good or not, regardless, it's something to look back on or never to think of again. Wish you a happy new year, coming into 2019 here, just about to, it's already fucking February almost.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's a happy, very, very, very belated New Year. But
yeah, hopefully, you'll be rocking with us, and we'll definitely rock with you. And y'all guys have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Peace out, fellas.